Yeah, let's get started. Yeah, this session is about flow, BlackBerry flow. We call it finding your flow in Cascades. It's going to be two sections. The first one is going to be design oriented. So even if you're not Cascades developer, it's going to be very useful for you, I think. The second part is going to be a little bit of how you use these flow features in Cascades. But let's start off with Roger. Roger is actually one of the main guys behind the UI in BlackBerry 10, the interaction design. He's working with me in Malmö as an interaction designer. And for you who don't know who I am, I'm Larsson, product manager of Cascades UI framework. But let's start off with Roger.
Thank you, Anders. And do you hear me? Am I on? Do you want to talk a little bit more?
Yeah, so funny story. Let's get this fixed. I can actually cover the first. So just the quick agenda here again. So Roger is going to talk talk about what is flow and the four steps you can use to achieve flow in your application. So very design oriented. And my part is going to cover a few Cascades features related to flow. The tabs, peak, leading list visuals. I think I'm going to skip context menu. Roger is going to cover that, but and finally cards and invocation framework. Let's see if we can.
Hello. Maybe I can take your.
Yeah.
So we're just. Hello. Hello.
Ah, yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Sorry for that inconvenience, and thanks for covering for me, Anders. To start, this doesn't really work, so I do like this. So to start off and trying to find that flow we just lost, I wanted to give you a little bit of the background into what this concept really is about. So, can you hear me now? It seems that the mic. Okay, let's try like this. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Yeah, trying to find that flow again. So, and a little bit of the background into what flow really is when you start working with it. So, flow in the general sense, it's a fairly common term within psychology. So it's a concept coming from psychology and that field, and it can quite elegantly be summarized by this Wikipedia quote. So it's so flow in psychological research refers to a mental state of operation in which a person performing an activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement and enjoyment in the process of the activity. So in essence, a kind of pleasant and effective mode of operation when you're doing something a little bit more challenging. And this field was pioneered by a researcher called Csikszentmihalyi, and that's a rather fortunate or unfortunate name, depending on how you see it. Personally, I think it's rather sticky, so once you heard it and get to know him, you'll never kind of forget about him and his work again. So he worked mainly in the 60s and 70s and became fascinated by this notion how people like artists and others that would kind of get fully involved and immersed in the work they were doing. And he tried to understand the kind of inner workings behind that and summarize it in books like this one, which is a rather good read. But flow in the psychological literature and BlackBerry flow aren't really exactly the same things. So the psychological flow that Mihaly were researching is it's a kind of general state of mind that can happen in pretty much any type of activity, whereas BlackBerry flow is a much more tailored experience that we've kind of designed for BlackBerry devices. So I want to talk a little bit about more the way we see BlackBerry flow in the remainder of this presentation. So in the keynote and in a few of the other sessions already today, there's been some kind of detailed accounts of flow and some examples of flow. And kind of trying to summarize what BlackBerry flow is then, coming from the general flow, is you can put it as that the BlackBerry flow is a seamless user experience which provides full control and flexibility in every moment and every touch. Flow keeps the momentum going so that user goals can be achieved quick and efficiently. So how do you go about kind of building this into your applications? So we don't really think there is one single formula for achieving flow. There's rather quite a difference depending on what type of application you're building and what kind of users are using that application. So to kind of encourage flow on every level and every type of applications, we defined a set of design patterns and principles, as well as common components that Anders will talk a little bit more in detail about. So for us, the starting point is really getting familiar with those patterns. We'll see a few of them later in the presentation, and try to utilize them inside your applications in a kind of appropriate manner, and also get inspired by those patterns and try to embrace them in the work you're doing on your own. So, but we have some concrete rather concrete guidelines as well for you today. So here are kind of 4 steps that we think you can bring back to your desk and kind of bring up again when you start working on that next BlackBerry application. So the first principle or step is to try in the UI, trying to eliminate barriers to action and information. The second step is to make sure to put the user in control. The third step is to provide structure and focus in the UI. And before I tell you the fourth step, is there any guesses in the audience? Any idea what the fourth step could be?
Create beautiful moments of charm.
Yeah, that's not far off. It's actually embedded into that step, and we'll come to that towards the later part. So the fourth step is give compelling feedback. And moments of charm is often kind of an example of that. So very good.
Just for your information, I showed these in my previous presentation. So
okay.
anyone who
I missed that.
Yeah.
Good. So someone followed. Okay. I'll walk through a few examples of what we've kind of designed and built on the platform to kind of illustrate these principles and how you can use them. often connected to kind of dedicated controlling cascades, but then sometimes more on a general level that can inspire you. So when it comes to eliminating barriers to action and information, the peak feature that Torsten demoed this morning is really one of those kind of obvious examples of how to eliminate barriers to action and information. So, for example, if I'm inside an application like this, and the LED starts to blink, I know there's something interesting coming up. I want to stay on top of that, but I'm also quite busy with whatever I'm doing here. So in a continuous go, and with the peak gesture, I can start glancing into that other context, in this case, the BlackBerry hub, get informed about what's going on, and then depending on whatever that incoming information was, decide to act on it or decide to go back. And this is all done in one continuous motion. So putting the finger on the bottom of the display, swiping up, going to the right, and then go back again in the same motion. So this is one flavor of peak. There are a few others, but the main point here is how peak will enable users to do more stuff than they can typically do with a single tap or a single gesture. So another quite compelling way of eliminating barriers. Let's go back to this contacts application again. So typically, when you want to act on a contact, you would navigate into the contact card to find an action to perform on that contact. But that is often a kind of a cumbersome thing, and it's also not that efficient if you quickly want to triage a long list of stuff. So with those kind of use cases in mind, we designed the contextual menu component to handle that for you. And it's pre-built into the Cascades framework. So the way it works is that once you start interacting with this list and press and hold the finger on one of the contacts, the contextual menu appears in a compact state, still non-modal though. So you can continue swiping towards the menu to get a little bit of a tooltip for that option you swiped on top. And then if you're pleased and want to perform that action, you release the finger. Otherwise, if you want to dismiss this option and maybe decided to not do anything, you slide the finger back onto the list and release or start to scroll it again. All done kind of with the same type of gesture as the peak gesture I just showed you. So it's ongoing in one single motion.
So if you switch to this, I can very quickly demonstrate as well.
Thank you.
So I guess the subtle point that Roddy was making is that even when I have extracted the context menu, I can interact with the content. So you never get in the way of the user, even if you have the menu. And then you can, in one continuous movement, swipe back and forth like this. So we try to avoid these modal states. I mean, there is actually a modal state, of course, if you want to just see the context menu. But we try to avoid it as much as possible, and instead keep the flow in the UI even if the context menu is open. Yeah, you can switch back again. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, and just as Anders was showing, there is a modal state to the context menu, and there surely are some parts of the UI that requires a modal state. And one good example of that is the multi-select state that we embedded into the context menu. So if I choose this option of selecting more, I gracefully transition into the multi-select state, which is has a very similar UI to the context menu and allows you to quickly select a few contacts and do something with them without really interrupting or dramatically changing the context. So gestures aside, we showed two examples with sliding to the context menu and peeking. But gestures aside, another kind of smaller way of eliminating barriers, but still powerful, can be found in, for example, the calendar application when you're creating a new event. So in an application and a form like this, there's quite a lot of different stuff to fill in. So you don't want to lose the context, you want to keep going, and you might not fill in all things equally. So when, for example, picking a day for the event, that picker, which is also a built-in component, gracefully expands inline. So you can choose the date, and then you can scroll away and directly continue to the next field that you want to fill. So there's a few controls in Cascades that behaves like this. For example, the drop-downs and pickers. And to wrap this point around eliminating barriers, something to keep in mind, that on the BB10 platform, apps are integrated and share relevant functionality. So Anders will talk about cards. I think there's already been some talk about cards today. So that's one easy way for you to develop, as well as that's a kind of user benefit of sharing functionality across apps with cards. Another aspect of eliminating barriers is to try to not force the user into navigation and context switching unless really needed. So while you still can support kind of a navigation hierarchy in the app, and I encourage you to do so, rely on features like the contextual menu to make that step unnecessary for the advanced users that want to utilize the context menu. Another point, provide peeking to make informed decisions. I'll show you one example of peeking. There's a few more coming up, but there's also kind of a wide range of options to explore on your own there. And I think the screen is cut here, but I think I can still get the point across. So interactions should be predominantly non-modal, but when they require some modality, make it graceful when entering that modal state. So the next point, or the next big topic, putting the user in control. So, and this is one of those other type of flavors of peeking. So, if you look at this this view, there's one, or in general in the US, there's a quite different different frequency of different type of activities. So one of the more important ones is navigation, at least one of the more frequent ones. So you can either do that navigation with the back button here, but to really leverage flow and make use of a paradigm that allows really quick access and also access to powerful things that you can directly do with just a single tap. We've embraced something which we call content peak, or you can also put it as a navigational peak. So basically starting anywhere on the content area, swipe to the right, and you reveal the underlying UI. And that gives a new set of options that's not directly available when just tapping on the back button. So you can move back into that previous view, get informed if there was something new that needed your attention, and if so, you already kind of performed the navigation, or you pull back into that view you were looking at and kind of continue with what you were doing. So in terms of kind of more complex applications with much deeper navigation stacks, we've enabled a similar type of peak action to allow you to kind of drill back all the way to the root of application if you start your peak on the back button. So all these types of peaks are built into to the framework. So if you use the navigation pane, you will essentially get it for free and allow your users to effectively navigate the application. Okay, so let's have a look at the keyboard as well. It's interesting in many respects, but a subtle detail, which I'm not sure if you found already, is that besides kind of performing gestures to select words on the text prediction that kind of hovers above the keys, you can also do a few different types of shortcuts with gestures on the keyboard. So one of those shortcuts is, for example, to swipe from right to left to delete the word. So for those more advanced users that are familiar and have kind of embraced the UI, gotten kind of an expert knowledge, you can kind of embrace and extend their level of control with kind of these type of smart and clever shortcuts. So in terms of putting the user in control, a few things to keep in mind are gestures are continuous and reversible, responding to user intent. So when I say R, well, that's the kind of gestures we built into the framework. So if you start supporting own gestures, try to mimic the type of gestures found in the core controls. Gestures also allows for large touch targets, as we saw on the peaking scenarios. You can basically grab anywhere on the screen instead of targeting a small button. And finally, shortcuts through gestures speeds up interaction and it extends the possible use cases for the advanced users. Providing structure and focus. So kind of a focused application is obviously not only necessary for kind of building BlackBerry Flow, but it's a kind of general and good practice to structure the application. But one of the aspects of flow is that by providing a clear focus on what the application does and kind of identifying that, you can make sure that the kind of main use cases are really easy to achieve. So in terms of the camera, for example, the main use case is about making sure that the picture looks good and take it before that moment is lost. And the way we kind of designed around that use case in the BB10 camera is to make the whole viewfinder surface the kind of capture button. So you can tap basically anywhere on the screen except for these guys to take a picture. And that really gets all of the other stuff out of the way. So these detailed kind of controls are one step away to provide that focus that the user needs while on the go. And other examples of structure. So if we've seen a few of the native applications demoed today. And it's they share a few kind of common elements. So first of all, they're all built around the kind of the action bar component as the access to the main navigation and kind of actions that you can perform inside the application. And they are also trying to maintain a sense of focus in that quite complex information is divided into kind of more graspable and easy subsets. So in the BlackBerry Hub, for example, all your different kind of channels falls into a distinct tab, and you can focus the UI on, for example, the BBM messages. You can focus on other type of channels that's available, but it all easily allows the user to focus in on a distinct type of thing that he's interested at for the moment. And so these applications are kind of the foundation for a lot of the things that user will become familiar with, and and once they start to feel familiar with that, you will also have kind of the opportunity to let users come into a kind of familiar realm if you embrace the similar kind of controls that we've used in our native applications. So keep utilizing, for example, the action bar as the main navigation is one way to go there. So structure and focus. Try to establish clear goals and prioritize the UI. Find the right structure where each screen has its distinct purpose. Allow quick access to the most important and frequent tasks. And provide fallbacks for novice users while they get familiar. So one example of this is obviously that there is the back button, although you can kind of peek to navigate back. So here's this last section, which is about moments of charm, but it's also about a few more things. So when it comes to flow and feedback, one of the interesting aspects is that by giving compelling feedback, you can allow the users to get more comfortable and kind of trusting in your applications because they get a sense of what's going on. So one of the examples from our own applications here, again, the camera. So if I'm looking at the composition in the viewfinder, I have a kind of automatically receive the autofocus on this banana. But if I want to move the focus to elsewhere, I can do that with this frame here. And when I start to do that and press on the frame, you can see that all the other controls are animating away. So this is an example of how to provide kind of feedback through transitions. There's a lot of other means of providing feedback. Transitions are kind of one of the more dynamic ones, but of course you can do this like textually as well. But the important thing, letting users understand what's going on so that they don't have to stop and think, but can kind of continue with the use of the application. But with Cascades, there's built-in transitions into lots of the controls, and there's also kind of simple ways of doing your own custom transitions. And time for the moment of charm. So, and back to the keyboard. So the thing with transitions is, well, it's kind of sometimes intriguing to make those transitions big and beautiful and powerful. But often the most kind of effective transitions are subtle and doesn't really get in the way of the user. And that's definitely something that ties into to the flow aspect of the UI as well. So with subtle transitions, you can kind of charm and amuse the users, but not necessarily always kind of pinpoint that you created a beautiful transition. And the example here is from the keyboard. So when you select the text prediction, you swipe on the word, and then you have that word kind of sliding into the main view in a really kind of subtle but intriguing way. So the summary of this: interaction feedback is key. Carefully crafted transitions makes the UI dynamic and more immersive. And you should also try to find those moments of charm, which there isn't really one single formula to do, but have a look in kind of your applications and see those places where you can embrace that principle. And I think that's it for me.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. That was a nice UX education. I'm going to go into how you do some of these stuff in Cascades, and I'm going to show a little bit of code as well. Not too much code, but yeah, I guess that's the point. You don't need to do too much code to get this working. You may have seen me showing off my strange football game. It's called Go Manage. It was built by some of the Cascades guys you see walking around here in the conference. It's actually a fake game. It doesn't work, but it could work. If anyone is interested to build a fantasy football game, you should definitely do it. I love these kind of games. Why I choose this game is because it's very complex usually in its structure. It contains so much functionality. A fantasy football game, you have to buy players, sell players, you have to set up your team, you have to check out your fixtures, you get messages from other managers, so on. So there's a bunch of features and functionality that you should pry into this game. And for these kind of scenarios, the flow comes in really handy. So first of all, I want to mention the tabs on the action bar. This goes back to the structure. Some of you may have already tried to use the tabs in Cascades. It's very simple. You just kind of structure your app in your QML, and Cascades will automatically make it into tabs. It also allows very fast navigation with this new peek feature. So if you switch me to this device again, thank you. So as you can see, I have 3 tabs here on my action bar, but actually the game contains a couple of more screens. It could actually contain even more. But even if the game is complex, by using the tabs, I can quickly move between different parts of the applications. So first of all, using these 3 here is extremely quick. And if I choose to navigate into further into the game, I can always use the back button peek like this. And as you can see, the tabs are on my left all the time, the sidebar. So I can do this and switch very quickly. So just using tabs and thinking about how to use them can make it a very powerful way to make your app easy to navigate, even though you have lots of content. As a side note, I can show you that we also use this modal and non-modal state for our tabs. You can get your phone into this way where you can actually interact both with the content and the tabs, or you can go to the non-modal state to the modal state. Okay, switch me back to this. Thank you. Thanks. So some quick QML for that. If you have used tab pane control before, you're going to recognize this. This is just, of course, just a subset of the QML, but you see I have a tab pane, and I have a couple of tabs, and each tab I have some kind of content or page or navigation stack. And this property may come in handy, show tabs on action bar, because as you see in my use case, I wanted to use the action bar for tabs. If you have more of an action-based application where you have a lot of actions on the screens, you can choose to set this to false, and your actions will end up in the action bar. You will always have your sidebar where your tabs will end up, and your action overflow on the right side where your actions will end up. So this just decides which one gets preference to go on the action bar. And if you combine the sidebar with notifications, you can get even more powerful UI. So in this case, this is a football manager game, and I obviously want to buy and sell players. And if I'm trying to bid on a player, I want to know when someone else has put a higher bid on my player, or the player I want. But not all notifications are that important. So if you switch me back to the device again. So in this fake scenario here, if I'm looking at this player, I'm trying to figure out, is he fast enough to play in my game this Sunday? And suddenly I get this flashing LED notification. I just use this back button peek to quickly triage on the left side, because the notification splats turn up on the tabs as well. So obviously I can use this gesture if I really wanted to see whether it was an incoming message. But if I'm just interested is this actually applying to my app right now? Is this something I need to look at? I can just quickly look and see, oh, this actually was a transfer notification, and I can go to the transfer screen and react to it. Or I can just decide, no, this wasn't important enough, I just go back to where I was. So it's a way for the user to quickly triage. If you switch me back, thank you. So not every app will be full of real-time events, but if you have one, definitely check out how to use notifications. It's very simple from a QML perspective. You basically control these 2 properties on your tab. New content available, true, that gets the splat up. And unread content count is optional, but that sets how many unread messages or events have happened. So if your app just use these ones, you will get that splat automatically on your tab. It's very useful. Yeah, so peeking and navigation, this was covered by Roger. Not going to say too much more about it. It follows your finger. You saw the use cases. It's really easy. It's actually turned on by default. So if you don't do anything, you're going to get this for free as soon as you use a navigation pane. Each navigation pane is going is going to react to this gesture. But if it interferes with your content, there may be cases, like I'm actually going to show you a case where it interferes with the UX. So if you switch me to this device again. So this is the image viewer, and I can pan. And obviously, when I'm panning like this, I don't want the swipe to this gesture to invoke a peak, obviously. So I turned it off in this case, or actually the guys developing the pictures card did. But when I zoom out, they put it out, turn on again, and I still get the peak. So you can turn it off if you really don't want to use it. Yeah. So you can put me back on the computer again. So let's talk about the leading list visual. This is a way to incorporate secondary content in a list. I mean, there are often use cases where you have some kind of primary content in a list. Like in my case, I have my players. And in this case, I have a pretty complex screen. I have also my formation down here. So it's a messy screen, but I still want to make it possible for power users to get access to content even faster. Like if I'm setting up my team here, it would be very nice to know what my next game is. In this case, I'm playing Larsson United, and it's on Larsson Arena, so it's a tough away game for me. And that I need, as a power user of this game, it's very important when you set up the team. Should I play offensively or defensively? But still, it's not more important than the actual formation and my team members. And I could, using this tab bar, I can go into fixtures and actually see what is the next game. But if I use the leading list visual, I can incorporate this without consuming any screen real estate. And it's perfect for power users. So I'm just going to demonstrate it if you're switching back to the device again. So here's the screen. I have my team here, and I have my formation here. And as you can see, when I scroll up and down, you can see the leading list visual kind of peeks in when I'm scrolling. So that is a way for the user to discover it. And they can quickly peek and see, okay, so next game, Larsson United, away. Okay, I'm going to play defensively, and just swipe it up again. So the leading list visual can be used to present secondary content in your list. And it's not part of the list model, which is great. I mean, you don't want to mess up. Maybe you reuse this. Actually, in this case, I've reused the same list model in all my screens, but I only use leading visual in this screen. So leading list visual is not part of the list model. Actually, the QML is very simple. Looks like this. I have a list view, and I use the list view as before, but I can add this leading list visual property and include any control here. In this case, I have container with some images and stuff, but you can put more or less anything in the leading visual. Simple but very useful feature, and you should try to experiment with it. The final concept I want to talk about before we start taking questions is cards again. This is, I highlighted in my previous session, I want to highlight it again. This is not like a UI specific feature. This is more of a system feature, a platform feature, where you as an application can make use of other application UI. Or you can export your own UI or parts of your own UI to be used by other applications. So how you do it is basically that in your bar descriptor, you define which cards that are available. So when you install the bar file, the system will figure out, okay, so this application also contains these cards. As application calling cards, you can either explicitly specify a specific target to invoke, or you can just use a MIME type and let the system find a card for you. So it's pretty simple, and it's really powerful. And the good thing, if you switch me back to the device again, the nice thing with cards is that you not only get UI for free, you get features for free. So in this case, I start the pictures card, and this is part of your the SDK, and this is built by our pictures team in Malmö. So this is a core RIM team that spent several months on their application. So it's a full-fledged pictures application, and this is of course only a card, but I have my zooming and panning. I have save as, set as wallpaper, sharing options, so on. So if I do this, I set this exact screen as a wallpaper, and yeah, so you can see I have a wallpaper. So you get all these features for free, and it's a great way to kind of extend your application or make your own application more sticky. Because if you make an application with great cards, people are gonna want to keep your application on their phone just for the cards. And obviously you're gonna have it's seamlessly integrated into the flow concept. So I have the content peak. I do have back button peak as well. So it looks like it's part of your application, but it actually isn't. And you can switch me back here. And the nice thing with that it is not part of your application is that you don't need to write the code. The code for this is very simple. This is a simplified example, of course. You can do all you see. Me presenting here in QML. You can of course do in C++ as well. There are APIs for everything in C++ if you prefer. This is how you do how you invoke a card in QML. We have the invoke action item. That's a specific action item that you can use as any other action item. So you can, in this case, I choose to present it in the context menu. And for this, you have the query property, and you can set. In this case, I say it's an image. I say which action. That this basically says how am I going to invoke this and how it's going to look on the context menu. And in this case, I specified a specific target ID, so I really know I want to use exactly the pictures.card.previewer. I could just omit this, and the system would try to find based on the MIME type instead. But in this case, I knew I wanted exactly this previewer. And I also specify a URI to the file I want to send, or I can specify a piece of data I send over. So very simple is the fluid lines of QML, and I get a full-fledged picture viewer in my application. It's pretty nice. This is not all you need to know about cards. This is a subject of its own, so you should try to attend the invocation session. I think they're going to speak a little bit about cards and about the invocation framework. So this is basically the end of the presentation, and I just want to say that yeah, we hope that you see that getting the BlackBerry flow in your application is going to be really easy if you use Cascades. You have most of it almost for free. We have designed Cascades to take advantage of this flow from start, and we're going to keep on building on that. This is not the last flow features you're going to see. Obviously, there's a lot of other flow features. I mean, going back to Roger's points, you can do a lot on your own as well to get even better flow in your application. So play around with what you got from Cascades and invent your own flow features as well. And if you have any questions, you can just ask them now, or ask them in the Ask the Experts, or send them off to me and Roger in any other way.
There's a question. There's a few questions.
Not right now. I'm going to let someone clean it up because I did some last-minute hacks. And then hopefully I'm going to publish it to GitHub. Yeah?
I have a question about cards, probably. Not this place here. Are there any limitations depending on the platform I'm using? Like if I'm using Air or Android to share? Or
Good question. So I'm going to repeat the question to... So everyone is, yeah, so the question was if there are limitations when it comes to cards and runtimes. So no, there are not. So you can It's completely hidden away from the application, whether you invoke a web card or an air card. And as far as I know, all runtimes support creating cards and invoking cards. Yeah.
Yeah, so another question. All the examples I've seen so far about flow is that you can go and see what's going on behind. But what I'm missing is the following. Let's imagine you're in your email, you're starting composing, you're typing an email, the letter goes on. You read, you see, oh, this is something really important. I have to respond, so you go, I respond, type that email. Now, when it comes to purely natural flow, after that I would want to just go back to that screen where I was typing that original. Is there anything for that, or is it planned? Or I mean, that is part of my workflow.
Yeah, okay, so I also try to summarize the question. Maybe we can have the next round of questions at the mic. But your question was, so we've demonstrated a few examples of glancing at what's incoming, and then if you want to take action on that, what happens next? Since we haven't kind of demoed the full platform, we aren't really in a position to talk about that today. So that's definitely something we have on our radar as an obvious use case.
Yeah.
Can we have it at the mic?
I can speak really.
All right. Okay.
Is there any type of plan, rapid prototyping or storyboard SDK so that we can try these workflows in a faster way and hand off to engineers?
Yeah. So the question was if there is a rapid workflow on the roadmap. So there is no. I believe that QML and running on using the tool is a pretty rapid way of working. There are, of course, even faster ways. There is nothing specific in the roadmap. We're gonna keep working on the tooling around QML, and hopefully, you're gonna see a lot of improvements and speed up the round trip times. I can't say anything specific today, but we're going to keep working on the QML, and we're going to make that into a rapid prototyping environment, even more than it already is. Yeah?
Question. Is there a signal that's emitted by Cascades that tells you when a user is glimpsing inside your application?
Yes, there is.
All right, and that's in the...
Yeah, yeah. So the question was if there is a signal. Yeah, when you're being peeked at, you need to know that, and that's yeah. There is a signal, so you can take action if you want to start or stop animations or extract something. Yes, you can do that. Was one, yeah.
One use case, if the use case with cards is to basically embed other applications in yours, so people don't realize they're using another application.
I don't know if it's explicitly to try to hide it away, but from a user experience perspective, yes, we want to keep it in.
I guess what I'm wondering about is there any way for your application to inject actions into or exert some control over the card? Because if I'm using, say, an image viewer card in my app, I would want some of the context items that are available in that card to relate to my app and not the rest of the system ignoring my app.
Okay, so it's a good question. So is there a way for the calling app to affect the card? So there is no built-in way or well-defined or predefined way of doing that. There is no protocol like that. You can do it by passing data from and make your card. Maybe if you make your card, you can provide details on. Okay, so if you invoke me and provide these parameters, I'm going to add or remove these actions. But there is no protocol or predefined protocol.
Yeah, my concern is that could create some user confusion if there's some issue in the card that your app has no control over, and they blame you for it, and you can work around it if you could exert control.
Yeah, it's a valid point. Right now there is no way, and I think most of the cards are going to have to be pretty generic if people are going to use them. They don't want too specific. Yeah. Yeah, there is. Because we have a file picker, and I guess you need to know what file was picked. Yeah, we do. I don't know the details, but definitely join the invocation session, and you'll know all about it. Okay, yeah.
How do I find out which cards are provided by the system, like this system pictures card?
Okay, so there is an API to which I don't know exactly, but you basically provide a MIME type and an action, or only a MIME type, and the API will return all possible targets. And you can either choose between them, or you can just let the system throw up a menu to let the user show.
So as a developer, I want to know which cards are available to think about which cards to use.
Okay.
Some information, whatever goes with the...
I don't know. I can see the use of that, yes, but I don't know right now. No, but there will obviously we're gonna publish what's in the SDK and what's coming. But it's a good question. Yeah. Yeah.
When you have a blinking red light and you peek but don't switch to it, does that go away or does it keep blinking?
Good question.
So when I can't speak of all use cases, but definitely when you peek into the inbox, it goes away.
So I don't think there is a defined behavior there. I think as a developer you have to either, as far as I know, you have to cancel it or keep it on. There is something about how splats are behaving. I don't know. Remember, there is some built-in behavior there, but I think the LED is a different story. Was one more on this side? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing with the peak gesture for basic.
Mm-hmm.
I find that I try to peek even when there isn't a peak screen to look at. Say, you can't always peek.
You mean if you're in the bottom of the hierarchy, you can't peek?
Right.
Yeah.
That's not always obvious for a user. Are there plans to make visual clues when you can and can't peek in the application, like in the framework, or is that left up to the app developer?
So I think that's a question for you, Roger.
Yeah, so repeating the questions, are there plans to create visual cues for when peeking is possible? And I would say no visual cues. The visual cues we would use and are using are rather once you start interacting, reveal kind of a peak that starts to happen, or feedback that with kind of rubber banding and similar means to show that, well, there isn't something to see there.
So you have to start swiping to find out that you can't swipe.
Essentially, yes.
It's a good question. Yeah. Thanks.
We check our mailbox every morning, even if there's nothing there.
Well, there was one on this side, right? One more question? No? Okay. I hope you enjoyed the session, and if you have any questions, catch us on our Ask Experts, or just catch us if you see us. Thanks.
Yeah.